Welcome to Scream Queen, a podcast about scary movies.
From people not typically depicted in scary movies, we've reached our season finale. There's so many finales happening right now. Drea, how are you holding up? I mean, we're on day 2/3 of the selection with no results called. Hold up. How are you passing the time? What are you watching? What are you getting into?
Oh, I'm just continuing to keep it weird. So, I watched Glitter on Mushrooms last night, and that was
Well,
wonderful,
what goes
by the
into a
way.
decision process that leads to, you know what I need to do tonight? You know what I need to be about tonight is watching Glitter on Mushrooms.
Well, see, earlier, before that, I watched something before that was atrocious, like next level. But I wanted to see it so bad, and I'm glad I saw it, and I'll never need to see it again. It is Glenn Danzig's Veronica, and it is a hot ass mess, written and directed by him, and it's on Shudder.
Oh no.
And it's
I
like
do want
porn
to get
meets
fucked by
like
him.
horror.
I do want to
Huh?
get fucked by him. I'm not gonna lie. I do kind of want to get fucked by him a little bit.
No, I don't. That's my Glenn Danzig. I absolutely not. And that movie is like it low key like it. I kind of like I don't know what the fuck I watched. It was insane. It was a whole.
Hmm.
There was titties with eyeballs. That I'll say that.
Okay.
And they cried.
Did the titty balls eat lipstick? For
Uh,
those of you
they
who
they
have
just cried. They're not of the demon style, but yeah, they have feelings. They did have big emotions. So
Well, what a better like way to reintroduce my favorite phrase, which is titty ball. It's the titty with the eyeball. Now you know what I was talking about when I said titty ball to begin with. Titty with
no,
the
no,
eyeball.
well, maybe they stole that then, and you need to go hunting them
Oh
down and looking
no,
for
is this
your
the right
money.
situation? I spent all day planting flowers and listening to Mariah Carey memoir. Talk about
Yay!
actual horror. I got through her childhood and I was like, holy fucking shit.
I
Her
know,
sister tried to
baby.
pimp her out at like 12 years old. She talked about like her first memories being violence. And I was like, okay, Mariah. But I feel like she's like way more. I'm not necessarily like a fan of celebrity memoirs. I remember Angelica Houston's just being like a recounting of like every tapestry she's ever bought. You know, it was like very ornamental, but it wasn't like actually vulnerable or deep. And Mariah Carey's memoir is vulnerable
It's
and
her
deep.
life.
It's well written,
It's
by the
well
way,
read.
and also like
It's well
it's
read.
it's really well read because she gets like she sings when she's saying make it happen. I was like, I'm actually going to have to listen to this song
I
now.
stopped. I stopped right after she did it, and I had to put it on. Yeah, because
Hmm.
it's that good. I was my routines in the mornings were exercise bike and Mariah Carey book, and I just get in that zone and just like, oh, I think I'm so thankful that she gave us that gift. I mean,
Yeah.
I was really, I was like, she better not be playing. She was like, because I got something to share. I have some things to say, y'all. And she'd been saying it for months, and oh, it was worth it. It was worth it. It
I
was
also like just on
special.
a personal note, like having a very light-skinned mother and having a very dark father personally,
Mm-hmm.
and then feeling that when she talked about when she was drawing her family with crayons and everyone made fun of her and said she used the wrong crayons because like, well, she's so light, so how could she have a dark skinned daddy? And I was just like, oh, I remember those kindergarten conversations and like being dropped off by a dark skinned father and being light skinned and people being like, so who was that? Like, do you have a chauffeur? And I was like, that's my daddy. Like the intricacies of like and like the intricacies of like the racial dynamics in a family, but also the like recognizing the types of privilege, but then also recognizing the types of pain that she does so well in the span of even like a paragraph. I was like,
There's so many, so many, so many layers to her that she's shared in over the years in certain ways. But I mean, just the fact that she got into, and I want to come back to this, I want to put a note in that talking about the crayons, because I have a story about that briefly. But
Mm.
when how devastating the TRL moment was for her. I mean, and I knew like when that derailed her life, you know, and how people started viewing her. And when you start thinking about, oh, it was because they literally would have her up for like 2 weeks straight,
Mm.
working on records, and would not allow her to sleep. And, you know, and she wanted to go do something fun. And then Carson Daly played stupid and acted like he didn't know she was showing up and just made her look foolish. And, you know, now you get to see his fat head on The Voice every Monday or whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean
Like
to like.
the amount of also just like the outsized influence that white men have had on her life, and like that whole fucking Phil Spector, Ronnie Spector shit that Tommy Mottola did on her. Like that is the
It's been
horror
going
film.
on for,
You
yeah,
know, like that's the
yeah.
haunted house. She talked about like that was my Sing Sing, that was my Hill Jail. Like that was like little did I know I was in this opulence designing my own prison.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, because all she wanted was comfort. She never had that. You know, all she wanted was safety. And
Mm,
now she is probably with one of the most dangerous people she could ever be with, you know,
mm,
and having her life just monitored 24/7. But just briefly about the crayon thing, I remember I made up, because my family's all different shades. My dad's the fairest complected in the family. And on his side of the family, everybody's like, I have aunts that are like, you go really, really, really fair complected, red hair, green eyes. Um, and and then it goes like almost like, yeah, it's a spectrum. So I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess. But I made my dad peach brown when I made my family a portrait. I made up a color. I said, and they didn't know what the hell the color was. I'm like, that's peach brown, because I didn't know how to draw my dad, and I'm like, well, he's peach, but because that
mm,
was the
mm,
closest
mm,
cranny, that was the closest he was. And I was like, okay, so peach brown, my dad's black, but and so that was me relating things. But
mm,
my mom
mm.
loves that fucking story. um
Burnt sienna. I had a very personal relationship with burnt sienna.
Burnt sienna, lord,
That crayon
lord.
got worn out in my drawings.
Oh.
But this is the season finale, and you know, I think you know, me and Dre just kind of wanted to address not an elephant in the room, but the fact that this isn't the podcast episodes aren't being released at the same time that we release episodes on YouTube. And kind of what happened was like we recorded the finale of season 2 the Friday before everything got shut down. So it was like early March. I feel like Friday we recorded it. Saturday, you, me, and Becky watched The Circle. And I was like, how could anything be like that? And then like life became The Circle, really. And a month or so after that, maybe 6 weeks, we were kind of like, I think we wanted redo the show, but we had an idea of doing it on Instagram Live, and like that kind of petered out a little bit. And so we just started. We didn't have a plan. It was more out of a necessity to do something rather
Yeah.
than like having a strategy for rollout and season premiere and all that kind of stuff. And because of that, like there became a gap between like when we started doing things on YouTube, and when we released the episodes on our stream, on our podcast stream. So we're gonna do this season finale, wait for the stream to catch up and be current, and then come at you season 4. Is this season 4? Season 4. We've
Yeah.
been season 4. You know,
Nice.
we're gonna hit you with visuals. We're gonna have it synced up with our shit. You know, there might be some changes afoot. There might be some merchandise that you can purchase.
Yeah, just a little refresh.
Poet.
And yes. Oh
Yeah.
Lord, get out of here. Definitely merch
um
on the way.
yeah, and
Definitely.
it wouldn't be a proper send off without us, you know, really acknowledging the fact that like this has been and continues to be a labor of love and something that we both love doing, and that like sometimes our enthusiasm gets ahead of our ambition, and like that's totally fine. You know what I mean? And we're gonna give you the chance to catch up and come back at you again, season 4 with some new shit. Drea, being the season finale, will you let the audience know what we're talking about this evening?
Okay, so we have 2 main discussions. Part 1, we're getting into the new release on Netflix that came out on Halloween called His House. And it's, we can't wait. We can't wait to talk about it.
That shit is good.
Yes, it is. And following that, we're getting into The Craft Legacy. And finally, our Scream Queen of the Week is Miss Sheila Tousey. Is that how you say her name? Or Tousey? Okay, as Martha in Ravenous, which is a fucking nasty movie. And I remember why I haven't watched it in a long time.
It's a little bit homosexual in a way that like I don't think
it was
the film
at the end. You're right. In the trap,
I was like, just fuck. It would be cool if y'all just fucked.
That's what I thought. I think it was. Okay, we'll get into it, but I think that was that's what they were alluding to. Like they were like, he's like, just this meat is like, you know, we need, this is us, a representation of us getting, you know. Anyway,
we'll get into
it's carnal.
Oh, carne.
Carne. All right.
So stupid.
It's very stupid. Now I want a burrito. Okay. So main discussion, part 1. His House is written and directed by Remy Weeks. And it was adapted from a story by Felicity Evans and Toby Venables. This stars Miss Wunmi Masuko, or Mosaku. Let me get that shit right. So let me do that over again. Okay. This stars Wunmi Mosaku. That's and hey, Lovecraft Country. Tommy put that in the notes.
We see you, Lovecraft Country.
Yes. As she plays, is it Rial?
Rial, yeah.
Yeah. And Sope Dirisu as Bull. And it's about a refugee couple from war-torn South Sudan struggling to adjust to their new life in an English town that has an evil lurking in the walls of their new house. So first off, wound me, all hail, wound me. I thought, you know, she was a force to be reckoned with in Lovecraft Country, but this, it was so strong. And she didn't even do half of what she did in Lovecraft Country. There was an anger, but it was like a regal anger. It was like she was just so powerful in this movie without even having to like raise a hand, you know?
And she was like very much, as her character, as Rial, was very much like trying to keep in line with the traditions that she knew, whereas Bull was really trying to assimilate right to their English town to be like one of the good ones.
Yeah.
And that tension between them, I mean, first of all, that shit is so real. This isn't an immigrant story. This is a refugee story. You know, a refugee is like being constantly penalized for surviving. You know, like, because they have to do things that aren't ideal in order to survive a massacre, right? And then penalize from the town that they resettle in. We were talking about safety before with Mariah and the house. And this is, I think, so analogous because it's like the house, and why this horror, I think, is so effective was because the house, the home, is supposed to be a source of safety. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this country that they're leaving and this country that they're coming to, you know, it for safety is suspicious of them, detains them, dehumanizes them, you know, and tries to at every point give them less than optimal. You know, he opens, like when they first get to that house, Bull opens up, I feel like a pizza thing or something, and it's like fucking roaches inside of it, like just teeming with roaches. And it's like, so you're taking people who've had to do the most to survive, literally just survive, and just give them the least and ensure their dehumanization. And it's like, they're vulnerable, right? And so vulnerable to the Apeth, right? To the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like what they've had to survive and what they've had to do. And it's like, it's not overstated, it's not understated. I feel like it's perfectly woven into a literal scary story, right? It's
Yeah.
culturally specific horror that is also um readable to you and I.
It's it had layers, and it felt there was so much depth to it. The movie's only an hour and a half, a solid hour and a half. Felt like, didn't feel long, but it just felt like I really saw a lot in
Mm.
that amount of time. Like, but it was effective. Like every single frame was used in the perfect way. Um, and they didn't overdo it with, with certain twists and spins that they kind of took you through. It all kind of made sense. They, towards the end, when you start to realize why they're being followed by this night witch, and because they um so the husband, he's still in denial of anything in the house, and tears the walls apart trying to find this thing. And
Saying that it's vermin or that it's mice or that it's something, like, will
yes,
not come to terms with the fact that there's something hanging over them.
he just, because he just can't accept it, and but also because what's happening is he is just he's grieving, and he has guilt, and that's what they're both feeling.
Mm-hmm.
At one point you also feel really angry at him when he takes their daughter's stuff and throws it in the fire, because
Mm-hmm.
at that time we're led to believe that that's their daughter, but we come to find out it's not. and 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 how we were led to that is you know Wunmi's character, Rial, she wants to go back to Sudan, and when she tries to leave, she wakes up amongst all her friends in Sudan again.
That scene was so gutting.
Yeah.
I was like, first of all, I wept. Second of all, like, it's also like playing with these ideas of knowledge and comfort and danger, right? So she's like endangered and she jumps out that window. Then she's like in this sort of dream world where she's with all of her friends. And in a moment of supreme, I felt, not even as a person who's a part of that culture or in this movie, obviously, or one of these characters, like I felt comforted by that group.
Me
They're like,
too.
"Oh, she's back," like they do, and then they're ululating. They're just like, that's her troop, that's her homies, right? And then it kind of draws out a little bit. It gets a little,
And
you
she just,
realize that like these are
she's like, I.
people
Mhm.
that like have been massacred, and like she survived because she hid from that. And
But her first words are like, and you don't realize it, but she's like, I know that you're not who you seem to be. And
mm,
right there, I'm just like, oh shit, like what's about to happen? And then they flip it around, and you don't even see what she's saying. You just see that she's stunned.
mm,
And her husband finds her in this classroom, and as he pulls her out, you see that all the women she was speaking to are all gunned down on the floor on top of each other.
but
Uh,
like when she's with them, when she's still kind of like I love the fact that it's like unclear what time we're in. It's like one of those things where it's like ambiguity is great. Confusion isn't great, but ambiguity is amazing, right?
yeah,
And so we shift between time periods, and like she's like, "Is my daughter here?" And they're like, "You don't have a daughter."
you don't
And
have
that's
a
what I was
daughter.
like, "Woo!" But we saw her kiss that girl's head in the opening scene when she said, "I'll keep you safe." What is this
Yes.
about? Is this matcha? Is this
And then
Earl
it's
Grey?
all
Is this
starting to make
chamomile?
matcha.
What tea is this? You know what I'm talking about? Like,
And as they wait out as the soldiers massacre their village and their people, and walk to a bus, and that bus will only allow people with children on. And what you find out is that her husband grabbed a little girl and jumped on that bus. And then you watch the mother chase after the bus and see her daughter. And it is crazy.
It reminded me
But what you
of
would do in a moment like that, like you don't know what you would do if you're out running
in
from
theory,
guns.
I'm out here on Twitter, on Instagram, in Google Docs talking about like I'm virtuous. I would never do shit like that. But like in order to survive, it reminded me of this book by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning that talked about surviving the Holocaust and like an internment camp and like the lengths that a survivor will actually go to sometimes means you're criminally selfish. That sometimes means that you ultimately, in a moment of panic and death, value your life more than somebody else's and will make decisions, snap decisions that you're not proud of, that you feel guilty for, that will result in PTSD and ghosts. That like it's like to survive. It's like, you know, we oftentimes, like I think on this show and in general, you and I, Drea, we talk about being survivors, right? We talk about being from lineages that had to survive horrible circumstances at some point in our past, being Black and Indigenous, right? And it's like sometimes those decisions aren't cute. You know, sometimes like people had to make decisions that were optimal more for themselves than for the group in order. I'm not saying that people in our lineage did that, but I'm saying like sometimes those decisions have been made and people have to live with those ghosts. And like that's what I love about this film, that it is both commentary and it is like the ghost is actually PTSD, the ghost is actually trauma, the ghost is actually guilt, but we're also going to give you a great story and we're going to actually make it scary because that apeth, whatever, like that was legitimately scary to me. And also I kind of was like,
it wasn't overdone with the CGI because they blended it perfectly and then it became an actual practical effects. And that was really dope makeup that they had on that person. And then he just starts digging into it. I was like, oh my God. But
I
the
could
best
feel
scene,
it, but I was also kind of like, I would also like Night Witch, I would let you fuck me.
oh, I know. That's exactly where your head went.
It's been a long time since I've been touched, okay?
You would have been like that before the
I
pandemic.
was like getting in there and I was like, okay, so you are comfortable in these guts.
Oh, bitch. Nasty. Ugh. Fucking hell. But my ultimate moment is when homegirl takes fate into her own hands and she's like, you know what? Nah, we're gonna have to just live with this. And she takes out that freaking night witch and the Apeth and
Right. She's like, actually not in this house, sis. Like not
yeah.
here. And they ultimately they retake their space, but they have to, but it is like a symptom of grief, right? Acceptance.
Yeah.
It is one of the stages.
Yeah, they've made peace with what they have done, and they have chosen to live with their ghosts in an just an accepting way. That's what I got from it at the end.
He does say that. He's like the ones, you know, in the village, the ones in the bus, the ones on the boat, like they ultimately have to live with all of the ghosts. That was like, in addition to being like brilliant in terms of like psychology and storytelling, also filmmaking, right? When they show the shots of the house and all of the people who also reside in it, besides just Rial and Bol, right? It's not just them who live there, because in those moments, it's like you're not only living for yourself, you're also living from your circumstance, from your community. You are an agent of survival, right? And that like in addition to the guilt that you carry for surviving, you're also carrying on a tradition, right? You're also like defiantly being like, I refuse to die. Like I'm going to be who I am, even if it's in this shitty fucking like suburb of England that never sees sun and somehow like has holes in all the walls, and like these white people keep coming here every other motherfucking day being like, you shouldn't do that to the walls, and like checking up on you. Like still there is
white people and Black people were fucking with them. Those boys, that was horrible. Like how they talked to her like this isn't Africa. Like what the fuck? It's crazy.
And
That
it's
scene in
like,
particular really hurt my feelings. Like I did
yeah,
not like that, but it's real.
it is real. Real and Bowl. And this movie was fucking good. And
Hmm.
watch it again and again. Like I told Drea before we started recording, I think I've seen it like maybe 4 times, just because it was also, it's not an easy film to watch, but it is a great film to appreciate.
Hmm. I think it, in a sense, it's, yeah, the subject matter is not like, it doesn't go down easy, but in a sense, it is kind of easy to watch. Like I got through it. Like I got so much from it. So, I mean, give it a go. It's worth, it's worth it. Yeah. That's what I want to say.
It is time we make it to our main discussion, part 2, the craft legacy, or as I'd like to call it, the craft missed opportunity. We'll talk about that in a second. So, written and directed by Zoe Lister-Jones, a new group of girls, Frankie, Tabby, Lourdes, and Lily, call the corners and do not shy from calling out each other in this updated sequel of witchcraft, warlocks, and wigs. Because you're fooling yourself if you think that was Fairuza Balk's real hair in that final scene. That was definitely a wig.
What? What are you talking about?
I'm conflicted. Honestly, Drea, I'm conflicted about this movie. I liked it. I didn't love it.
I liked things about it. I did not like it. I did not like this movie.
Talk to me about them. So what did you what were some, okay, let's start off positive. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Positivity. What were some
that's
of the things that you
exactly.
liked?
I
Yeah.
would want to begin with what I appreciated. I appreciated that the girls stuck together.
Yes.
That's what the original film was lacking,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the big misstep in the original film, is when they split ways and they
Mm-hmm.
don't find their way back to each other. That's just bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I I really liked all the girls. I really liked what they were about. Uh,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we'll get into it more, but they didn't get into these girls enough. I really wish I knew
Mm-mm.
who they
Especially
were.
because they made the whole magic thing so much about lineage, and they never went
Yes.
into like their family story. Okay,
I
missed
guess
opportunity.
maybe that's what they're going to get into if there is a sequel, since there's kind of like that, there's the opportunity for one. But I really did feel a connection between all the characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I bought it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more than I bought the original crew, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I
But like,
liked I like certain, like I didn't like the original girl in the craft, like the
Robin
little girl.
Tinney.
What's her name?
Oh, in the updated
Oh,
version.
Robin Tooney.
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah. I didn't like her character in the original one.
Mm-hmm. I
She was my
much
least
preferred
favorite.
her character in Empire Records
Yeah,
to
with the shaved
to the
head.
craft. Yeah.
That
Deb. I
wig
love
was
me some Deb.
her wig, and the OG craft was a tragedy. It was, and
Yeah, it
even
was a
she
little.
talked about that. I heard it like years ago. I heard her on like Craig Kilborn or whatever talking about that fucking wig. She was like, I don't know what happened there.
Mm-mm.
But
Neither did we, sis.
uh-huh. But yeah, I really just wanted more. What did you like?
Okay, I think my feelings on the craft legacy can be summed up in my vision, in my reading of their movie posters. So, the craft, iconic movie poster. 4 powerful women looking you directly in the eye, being like, bitch, make a move. The craft legacy is like 4 women laying down, looking off into the distance. Like no one's making eye contact. Like
So
it
we're
just
not doing things we like. We're doing things we don't like now. Okay.
oh, I
Oh,
thought you were gonna lead with things that we liked,
I
and I was
don't
gonna.
know. Okay, I'm just trying to follow.
You asked what was my thoughts.
I thought we were talking
Things.
about, we said nice things. So anyway, but go ahead.
Fine. Okay. Nice things. What I liked about it was that they bound each other against magic rather than like binding one of them. I also like the fact that honestly, like the power dynamic was like, it surprised me. This movie surprised me, having seen the original, that they were 4. I thought, okay, so they're going to discover their power and then they're going to get a little too high off their own stash and act out, and then one of them is going to rein them in. But that wasn't what it was. It was like the abuse of power was actually like, it wasn't like they weren't wantonly abusing power. One of them kind of did a little bit, and the rest of them were like,
Yeah.
sis, we thought we talked about this. Like, we're not going to play with people's feelings like this. And they interrogated their own desire to manipulate people, and we're like, actually, I think that's toxic, and we're gonna bind all of ourselves from magic. Like, I like
who
that
are we
twist.
to dictate, like, you know, because we played a part in this as well.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I liked the fact that like they incorporated a trans character. I like the fact that they incorporated like either a bisexual or pansexual character. I liked, you know, but it's like they introduced elements, but then like let them go and did nothing with them. And here, okay, so I made a little laundry list of things that that were introduced that never did anything. Bisexual or pansexual character, a trans girl, a sympathetic younger sibling who has like a moment with the main character, but then like kind of falls off. The gay question mark brother who like makes no other like who has no other plot. Also, any of there are 3 brothers. Their daddy just died in a like was burned to death, and we don't check in on these boys again. Also, his whole entire men's rights activist coven, and that like there was this idea that their powers were of 4 directions and like had 4 different elemental qualities to them, and it was like very convenient that they found each other. Fine, like, to be frank, but then like, you know, didn't really get into like how those particular types of elements influence the characters' personalities. Like, I thought that there were things that were mentioned or alluded to that like never really became any part of the story, and I thought that was a real failing of this one.
Yeah, so let me get back into the most important 2 things. As a bi pansexual woman, that was a messy, stupid storyline, and it does not represent that is not how we want to be represented. And I thought it was done really like just lazily. I thought, why even mention that there's a trans character if you're not going to get into it? They literally they just alluded to it and said nothing about it. And that's the first thing I told you after I watched it. I said I was not for that shit. But mainly what really pissed me off was I thought it was sweet where this character was going with like what they turned Homeboy's character into. I thought, I was like, okay, I kind of like what's happening and he's getting all woke and it's kind of hilarious. And then it just turns into this like, oh, a love spell gone wrong, which kind of happens in the first, but it's done in like, but actually no, the love spell doesn't go wrong. He's just murdered. That's what happens. So, and he really was feeling up on Homegirl. And anyway, it was just, but he confides in these girls. You know, it's like, because you can't have, you know, they just assume if you like
it's like
guys,
really hard for men. You don't
can't
understand
like
how hard
girls,
it is for
and
men.
you know, it's really hard because I could just stick my dick in anything. I have too many options. It was just done in like a really fucking shallow,
that speech
silly
was
way.
so bad. That speech
I
was
know.
so bad, dude. I thought like, okay, so, you know, Dre and I, as we cement our future careers as being consultants on horror films and in order to fix them, I have an interesting fix for this. So amongst the other missed opportunities, when the girls break into the bawling bisexual's room, right? And they're trying to find like some kind of DNA in order to do their spell on him. They find a condom, like, and that's a used condom that has cum in it, right? And then later we find out that he has hooked up with the main girl's stepbrother, older stepbrother. I was like, why not make that condom hit? Like, that's the stepbrother's cum. Here's the thing about, okay, so I have been with several men who do not identify as gay, do not identify as bi or pan or anything. Like they're just men who fuck men. They still think of themselves as straight. Nothing gets in the way of their nut. Like they could feel weird about it, but they're still gonna fuck. And so the idea that the main character's older stepbrother and woke bisexual hooked up one time and then like never did again didn't really sit right with me. I was just like, I feel like they would probably still be fucking and having bad feelings about it. So my idea is that so that used condom in that cum was from the main character's older stepbrother. And so they do this spell, but it ends up affecting her older stepbrother instead of this other dude. And then that becomes its own thing, because it's like, why introduce this character if you're not going to do anything to them? And like, there are so many and the stepbrothers are introduced without having that could reveal the fact that like they were actually fucking without him, without the bawling bisexual having to have this whole speech about like, and I just want to put it in anything. And they'd be like, oh, that I feel like to me, that would be an actual reveal if they were like, the spell is working on her older stepbrother because that was his cum in the used condom.
Okay. I do like that. I think they could have alluded to that better, but does that storyline even need to exist? Is the real issue, unless they're going to get into it right, like it would have been. I just don't think this movie it tried to do too many things.
Yeah.
It could have kept it simple. They kept getting into, you're talking about the earth, water, air, whatever, fire. I was like, our powers combined, we're Captain Planet.
That was some Captain Planet-ass bullshit. And it's like, why did you add that and then not do anything with it?
They spent their time fucking playing with butterflies, like literally that's what they did with their magic. I said, you could have done a whole lot with the CGI as far as when it comes to magic. You can get fantasy with it, and it doesn't have to look realistic per se. There could, like, the whole showdown at like this whole thing of David Duchovny. Why that could have been so much cooler, so much scarier. It just went nowhere. I didn't understand his like warlock situation going on over there.
Because it never really went into it. There were so many things that it just introduced and never really went into. And I was curious about this because like I did actually like Zoe Lister-Jones's writing and directorial debut in Band-Aid that came out like a few years ago. And I was like, that's not like it had ideas that panned out. And so I kind of wondered, like, was this like a too many cooks in the kitchen situation? Because it is like a franchise and a bigger project. But like, honestly, Drea, I think this particular film would have done better as a television series rather than a feature film.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that are because you could introduce those things and then they pan out later on, and then we could have like
more on okay, you could do shit with movies, but with TV, I feel like kind of like Cobra Kai, they can bring back all the OGs. If they're gonna bring back Fairuza, like they could bring back everybody. So
because like, I feel like the golden rule when thinking about features versus series is like, is this a singular event that happens in one situation, or is this something that could continue on? And when I was watching this, it didn't feel like a singular event that happens in one situation. It felt like, no, there's more story here that's being introduced, but it's being shoehorned into 90 minutes.
And that's a really unfortunate thing. And they also like, it's like they're counting on the fact that will the audience even care enough to get a second movie if you're just gonna throw it out there like that. It's like, why do I care about this character? Like, you barely told me anything about them. Like, oh, you're gonna learn more about them in the second movie. Like,
right,
you're not telling me anything.
But like, let's look at something like His House, right? Which was like 90 minutes long, which incorporated different time periods and different stories. But I felt like I got enough. I got everything that I needed, and I got like enough from the story that I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't need it spelled out for me. Like, I didn't need to know more. It felt resolved. Whereas this is just like, this could have been 8 or 10 episodes.
I'll also say, it was smart that they did make it a straight, remake. It's a there's elements of it that are but it's more of a follow-up, and
yeah, it's like reboot-ish,
yeah,
but not quite sequel.
since they're bringing in original people from the first, then that kind of turns the story onto its head. But yeah, by the end of the movie, it was just like, is this all I'm getting? And then they give you that final thing, and I was like, yes. And I'm not gonna lie, I teared up a little bit. Like the 12-year-old in me was just like, holy shit! Like, yeah, that was a big moment. But I'll still, I hope they get another chance. I hope they get to do. There's less people in the room, or not less cooks in the kitchen, as you said. And yeah, because I really do believe that girls need these stories. They need to see positive things like this. I was just like, I really liked all the girls. And also one of them is Pamela Adlon's daughter.
Yes.
And you could tell right away which one.
As soon as she opened her mouth, I was like, that loud bitch, that's Pamela Adlon's daughter.
So cute. Looks just like her. It's adorable. And she's funny. And yeah, I was loving all those girls. They were great.
Yeah, it was unexpected. I also looked up the bawling bisexual after I saw him, because I was like, that man. Oh, he's English, right? Yes, but he was also in Chambers. Okay. He was the brother of the girl who got killed. Yes, and I immediately looked up to see if he had nudes, and he doesn't. So I was upset about that. Yeah, I was upset about that. I feel like that was. I was just like,
use your imagination, baby.
I think it's probably uncut. I would just like to see evidence. That's all.
It's out there somewhere. It's out there. Leak them dick pics.
Or you could just send them to me, Nicholas Valentine, or whatever your last name is.
Slide into his DMs. Get into them DMs.
You know what I mean? Slide into this peach emoji, and I'm down for it. He doesn't actually look like it's that big, though. It looks like it's I feel
adequate.
Like it's adequate, which I'm all about. I don't want big. I just want average. I really would like average size dick, because I'm not trying to get
average with a bow on it.
And I don't know. I like low hangers. That's just my preference. But
okay, well that was a dick time with Tommy. So we just had that little pillow talk. We all love that. Well, that's when we're on our hiatus. That's what this podcast will be filled with all of Tommy's dick tales. Yes.
I'll try to get laid so I'm not so weird in season 4. I'll focus on that.
It's okay. I'll even it out.
Shall we get into our Scream Queen this week?
Do it.
All right. So Sheila Tousey as Martha in Ravenous. Now, this is like 1999, about cannibalism in the Wild Wild West. I saw this actually a couple of weeks ago as a part of Seattle's Museum of Popular Culture's horror movie night, which Dre and I took part in, and did Night of the Demons a couple of months ago. And I had never actually seen Ravenous. And so I did not, and I didn't do any research on it. I didn't read about it at all. And so I just watched it, and I didn't realize that we were going to get an Indigenous final girl. And I know about Sheila Tousey because in Indian country, and especially amongst Native actors, Sheila Tousey is iconic. She was in Thunderheart. She's Into the West. She's been in a bunch of shit. Literally anytime you see a movie that has Native characters, she's in it somehow. And so I was very excited to see her in this, and also see her as a character, as Martha. She's just sees the bullshit and is you know what? I'm not the one. Which is how I imagine, Drea, you and I, well, you more than me, but you being in a situation that's an actual scary movie situation, being you know what I'm not going to do is stick around to see if these men eat each other. I'm going to be out, I'm going to go, the car is running, and my Uber is here. I'm not going to be in this house anymore. And I appreciated that about her character.
Yeah. That final sequence that encompassed her character. Just absolutely not. They put her through hell, and
her brother dies.
Her buddy dies. little David Arquette.
Little David Arquette.
He looked fine as fuck in this movie too. He looks good still, honestly. But he looked fine as fuck, and Guy Pearce looked fine as fuck, and Robert
Neil
Carlyle
McDonough,
looked fine as fuck.
You know, like I feel like it was contractually obligated to show titty in every scene. Like that man, like he just at his prime, and those he was a little bit like Aryan Nation poster child, but he had them pecs up like and ready in so many scenes in this film that I was just like, that was a flex.
Oh yeah, they were all in prime shape. They look good. Well,
Guy Pearce, like Pierce me guy. You know what I'm talking about?
Jesus. Even though he's a little bitch boy in this movie, just running from everything. He jumped off a fucking mountain, off a cliff.
Tumbled. Like he'll tumble for you. You know what I'm talking about? Like into a pit.
Sure.
And his shit was broken for days. I'm like, how the fuck did you crawl? No antibiotics, no antiseptic, no like fucking neem oil or nothing, and you just crawled your bitch ass out of this and you was just fine. Like I was like, I like the amateur, you know, I almost would have been a doctor in undergrad in me was like, I don't think you would have survived this without having a major infection, but I'll go with it because you've also apparently
just go with it.
Part of another man in the opening sequence of this movie, which I guess in the lore of this movie, like eating somebody means you're kind of invulnerable.
Is it wrong that stew looked really good to me?
Yo, it did kind of look good though. Like when they come into it at the end and that one ladles it up and he's like, I'm like, you know what would be good? Stew. It's like
stew.
I just remember like so my parents like cooked a lot of meals for the tribe when I was young. And it's just like, you know, it wasn't catering, but it kind of was. It's like anything you can make in large quantities very quickly. So like a beef stew with like some potatoes, some carrots in there, you know what I'm talking about? Like it has such a visceral memory for me that when I looked at that, so I was like, I might just eat a man.
I was like, hey, you got taters up in that bowl. And I was like, bitch, whatever.
Quarantine. I know. I'm just missing a home cooked meal. Like,
I had the same reaction to that show Hannibal too. All the meals in that movie look bomb as fuck. And he made it look like a Michelin star 4-star meal. And then usually also they have a cookbook that they made for that show.
Yeah, no, there's something wrong with you on that.
I know. But it looked really good though. I'm just saying. And one day you might look really good to me too, Tommy. And I know.
Yeah, listen, this ain't some Donner Party bullshit. We ain't getting into this. This ain't alive. We're not trying. The girls are not like on a plane in the Andes. Like we're not. No, we're not doing this, Drea. But I am pretty juicy. I gotta tell you.
I want to take a bite of that booty.
You know, I've been doing strength training in the quarantine, so like most of this is muscle at this point.
Oh, so. You got that core. Got that core.
That quarantine core. That quarantine core. I've been drinking some protein shakes and shit, bitch. Like. Well,
I didn't think. Can I just say this?
Yes.
I wish they had given her more. Martha deserves so much more time. Of course, you know this. But I'm glad that she got to have that moment at the end and just be like, you know what? I'm good. Fuck you.
You know what I realized with this film though? That like every fight scene is actually a sex scene.
Yeah. You know?
But like because men can't actually love on each other, they have to beat each other up. It's a little bit like The Lighthouse, right? Where it's like you want to put it in, but you're like, I'm gonna put it in your face. Like, especially that last one.
They don't know how to interact or communicate their feelings, and it drives them fucking nuts. And and then when they're looking in each other's eyes, Robert Carlyle and fine as Guy Pearce, those baby blue eyes, I'm just like, oh, are they gonna kiss? I was like, please kiss, just kiss.
Just fuck each other already. You don't have to wind up in a bear trap pinned against each other in order to feel pleasure. Like toxic masculinity is real. And then Martha saw that shit and was like, you know, all right, so these motherfuckers are bear trapped onto each other. I'm actually gonna
I'm just gonna go
Leave the
test my.
fort.
I'm just gonna go walk out with nothing on me. Just walk into the woods because I got a better chance out there than with you motherfuckers.
No, I don't want to witness the mess. She was just like, the mess is too much. But
I
did have that realization while watching it, and I was just like, man, men are so afraid of their own affection that they will literally fight a motherfucker before kissing one.
They'll kill a motherfucker before kissing
They
one.
will. Like, it's wild for them. I'm just like,
It's sad.
That's
But
what it's
Martha,
like for y'all.
Bad bitch, Martha.
Martha. All right, Martha, you are our Scream Queen for our season finale. I love you. So glad that I found you, Drea. You never told me about her, so I'm using that against you a little bit, but you know what I mean. Let's move on.
Bitch, get out of my face. Okay. Scream Queen is produced by Alexander De Palma and Domino Sound.
With theme music by Doc Allison.
I am Drea Washington, and you can find me on the gram at Hey Girl Hey. That's HeyGrlHey.
And I'm Tommy Teeps Pico. Been obviously listening to the Mariah Carey memoir all day. You can find me at Hey Teebs, HeyTeebs on Instagram as well.
And you can find us on Instagram at Scream Queen Podcast.
And online at screamqueenpodcast.com.
Send us some love notes at screamqueen@gmail.com. That's SCREEEM queen@gmail.com.
And in the scary movie of your life,
you better scream, queen.
Oh, love you.
Next
See you next
season.
season.
Hi,
We actually did that one surprisingly well in unison, I will say.
We always do. We're really great at this. We're professionals there.
I mean, we actually are professional. I mean, this is actually our house. So wheelhouse or otherwise. So
exactly.
So.